So when we set out to do this adaptation, Brandon, Jackie, and I got together and did the fight choreography. And we knew that we wanted to do something unique and special, and we wanted to take the scene and adapt it into live action. We wanted to take the cool aspects and like kind of the fundamentals of the story, but then build on it with some really, really unique choreography and things that only these two guys can do. Jackie's Kung Fu is just second to none. He's got such a quick, snappy style. And then you've got Brandon, a world champion Taekwondo guy that also has these awesome, crazy spin kicks and has this tricking background. So when you combine these two guys, we just have something that, like, the martial arts in this thing is out of this world.
So for me, since I specialize in Kung Fu and Wushu, shapes and making sure I get the flow down, like that was one of the things that I prioritized the most when it came down to the parts where I needed to do like Kung Fu flavor aesthetic stuff.
What the process was like to choreograph this fight scene, we shot something called a previs, if you guys don't know. You choreograph the fight and all the camera angles ahead of time, so then on the day, we're ready to rock and roll.
It was really like a 3-month process. Like we had to like do multiple revisions. Like I remember Brandon and I, when we showed up to park, even aside from the shoot, which was like basically the whole day from morning to like sunset, we were basically doing like 6 to 7 day shoots because like, I mean like, you know, we were out there for a long time trying to perfect and make this choreo as Rock Lee versus Kimimaro as it can be.
When we got together and we had the camera to play around with, we collaborated really well in the sense of being able to bring Jackie and I's performances from anime to real life, but also will still have the anime effect, and also with Josh's camera movement, because anime has very much so a lot of camera movement to bring the audience into the story too.
I like to shoot on a super wide lens, be it like an 11 or 14, and get really, really close to the action. Wider lens shows way more of the world, and so when you move the camera, the moves feel really, really big and dynamic. The issue with that is that when you're on a wider lens, the hits are really, really tough to stack because the world is so much bigger. Without these guys, I wouldn't be able to shoot this the way that it was shot. I'm really, really happy for it because we're able to get some very, very dynamic shots, like that opening shot where I'm running along with them as they're running, and then I switch low angle as Brandon runs directly at the camera and you see Jackie shoot over top of him. It's a really, really cool shot, and without being on that wide of a lens, we wouldn't be able to get that move. Being that close and being up there in the action allows us to do things like tilting down to see leg kicks and whatnot. And again, it makes it feel very, very dynamic.
You might choreograph a super dope fight scene in like a gymnastics gym where you got pads and nice spring floor and perfect balanced floor. Most locations aren't like that, you know, you get like potholes and all this stuff. You may be able to do like crazy flips in one, but can you do that on another set? Also on top of that, when you're limited to time and money, you only get a certain amount of takes, you gotta make sure you can nail it. So it was nice that we previs there because we knew for a fact we're gonna be able to do that on the day too. This was actually my first time doing sword choreography. There were a lot of learning curves, but overall, performance-wise, it was like, it wasn't too much of a change. It's just like, for me, I thought of it as an extension of my arm.
In a fight, you always want to have ebb and flow. In one moment, you want to hope that your character is going to win, and the next you're afraid that he's not. And one of the greatest things about this Rock Lee versus Kimimaro fight is we have several plateaus of that. We've got a wonderful build where Rock Lee comes out the gate hard and starts winning, and then Kimimaro is like, okay, cool, it's time to pull out the guns, pulls out his bone sword, and then he starts winning. Once you think that he's got the advantage, Rock Lee levels up with the Drunken boxing, and it's just this constant evolution and leveling up of the fight, much like what anime does. And that's one of the things that is sometimes missing from modern day fights is that story structure. What's the story? Why are we here? Why are we doing this? Who are these characters? What are their wants? What are their needs? And what are their goals? Those should all be easily identifiable in a fight. And that's why I love anime fights, is most of the time these things are easily identifiable.
I think a lot of people have seen Tony Jaa do the 540, right? But the Cheat 9 Hyper was a 540 with the same landing of a 540, but one more spin. I remember I was just gonna do a Cheat 9 round kick at first, but I've done that a couple of times. And I remember on the day I was feeling myself a little bit. I was like, Josh, you cool with me doing this? He was like, dude, I think at the time you didn't even know what that kick was. You're like, show me in the air? And I did it, and you're like, fucking rad, let's go.
A lot of times when you're watching like shonen animes, like stuff like Naruto or Dragon Ball Z, you see like really like fast-paced action, like doo 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 doo. They don't allow you to breathe.
I think we found a really seamless way of blending live action and anime. We have all of these really, really dope fighting scenes, but then we punctuate it with anime style beats. Cuts to black, holds, the slow-mo on certain moves that you wouldn't expect, or slow-mo followed by a flurry of punches. It really just adds up to become a wholly unique piece.
Everyone had different flavors, and so like for this piece specifically, there was a lot of Chinese martial arts influences, like the Drunken Rock Lee. You don't want to just like rush through the Drunken Rock Lee part because like fans would know. And so we didn't want to ruin that experience for people who are within that realm, who enjoy martial arts for its pure form.
There's no better way of bringing something to live action than homaging something that's homaged another thing. We're doing the Rock Lee versus Kimimaro fight, and in this, there's an amazing scene where Rock Lee does drunken kung fu and accidentally gets drunk off from what he thinks is medicine, but ends up being alcohol.
Doesn't taste a little different.
And after he does this, he adapts and does some really, really dope drunken boxing moves. And it made for a pretty iconic fight and a pretty sweet fight.
I don't really know the actual feeling of what being drunk feels like. Being able to embody, show off the charm that everyone saw like Rock Lee doing in the actual like anime, it just felt so free. It was so easy for me to do. I could do many things with it. Hey! I'm talking to you!
Obviously the original fight as motivation to choreograph this, and then we also wanted to bring in, I remember, a lot of like Jackie Chan's Drunken Master.
In particular with Rock Lee vs. Kimimaro, there was some HK influences. What HK means is Hong Kong influences.
Hong Kong style like evades from like swords because Kimimaro had a bone sword in this. Old Hong Kong style, they have a lot of unique ways to dodge, and we try to put a lot of that for Rock Lee's character after he gets drunk, obviously. So it's a nice aesthetic to how he's like somehow dodging all these attacks.
One of the things that we quickly bonded over was our love of martial arts film and our love of action design and action scenes that tell a unique story. And we brought up a lot of references of what we wanted to do. We referenced a lot of Hong Kong action films and making sure that we hit specific beats and shapes with our action. You can see that in the very first beat. In typical Hong Kong action style, we hold the camera in a little bit wider than a cowboy 50-50 shot, and we just let Jackie and Brandon square off and do their thing. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. We're only able to do this because of your support, and we can't wait to do many more of these. Thank you.